Hop into spring with this adorable, easy crochet carrot. Perfect for beginners, this cheerful carrot will brighten any space. Hi, it's Krista at The Secret Yarnery. Today we are making this super easy and fast crochet carrot. The top is nice and closed all the way around, so it has a really nice finish to it. And you can customize the size of your carrot just by how many increases or decreases you do and when you do them. I'll show you exactly how to customize it in the tutorial. We'll just be making a normal size one together today, but go ahead and play around with the pattern, making them shorter or longer or wider, whatever you want your carrot collection to look like. This pattern uses velvet yarn or chenille yarn. If you don't have velvet yarn or chenille yarn, you could just use worsted weight acrylic. You can also follow this pattern here, this other tutorial. I'll link it down below. And it looks just as great. It takes a bit longer, so this is a faster pattern that we're doing today. But this is an option if you do not have some velvet or chenille yarn. So to make your super easy and fast crochet carrot, you're going to need yarn. So this is just orange 4-weight worsted acrylic. And then it is velvet yarn or this chenille yarn here for the carrot tops. Any sort of blanket yarn or chenille or velvet yarn will work. I'm using a 5mm crochet hook, but you could use a size 4mm if you would like. If you are new to crochet, you can use a handful of stitch markers. Those are optional. You'll also need a pair of scissors and a needle for sewing in your tail. You'll also need a little bit of hollow fiber or polyester stuffing, whatever you call it in your country, just to stuff the carrot. Here are the timestamps. You can jump back into where you left off, and let's get started. We're going to start with our chenille yarn or our velvet yarn. And this is the really fast and easy part. Starting with your velvet yarn, make loops about 20 inches, 18 to 20 inches long, and we want 10. They don't have to be exact, but I do like to line them up in order like this, back and forth. Sorry if I'm a bit off camera. So just back and forth, you want to have 5. So there's number 4, and here is number 5. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let me do one more. There we go. Now you can cut that yarn. And now we want to just pinch it up in the center. Doesn't exactly matter, but you just want to push it together. If they stay in order lined up, they do a little twist all on their own. Now I'm just going to pinch it in the middle, and we're going to make a knot right in the center. So just kind of eyeball it. We can adjust it a little bit before we pull it tight. So just a loose knot like that. Now get your tails and try to get them the same length. And then, holding all that, just push that knot up into the center area. Like that. Now, if you lay it out, I think this side is a little bit shorter. There's a couple loops that are up here, and these are lower. So I'm just going to tighten the knot in the direction to keep it in the middle. There we go. It doesn't have to be perfect, but as close to perfect as you can. There we go. So there is our knot. That is all we have to do. So there is the top of our carrot. We can just set that aside for a minute. And using the orange yarn, we can start making the body of the carrot. We're going to start by making a magic ring. So to make a magic ring, hold the tail over your non-dominant hand and hold it down on your ring finger with your thumb. Wrap your yarn around 2 fingers, making an X, and around 3 fingers, just tucking that yarn underneath your thumb as well. Flip your hand over, or turn your hand over, and you will have a short strand and a long strand. Slide your crochet hook side facing down underneath the short strand and on top of the long strand. Drag that long strand under the short strand, just like that, and turn the hook towards yourself up on the fat part of your hook. Slowly release your thumb a little bit just so that long strand can slide. And turn the hook away from yourself underneath that long strand. And you're going to bring it through the loop on your hook. So you can just bring it through just like this, or you can let go and just grab everything underneath your hook and slide it through. And there is your magic ring. Now we're going to start with a chain 2, 1 and 2. That doesn't count for anything, that's just some filler. Now we're going to do any number of double crochets into the center, anywhere from 8 to 18. You could do a lot of double crochets. The more double crochets you do, the bigger the body of your carrot will be, the bigger the carrot. So we're just starting right up here at the top. So the more double crochets, the bigger the carrot, and the less double crochets, I'm looking for a skinny carrot to show you. The less double crochets, this is a 10, so this is 10 double crochets for this skinny guy here. So you can decide how many double crochets you want to do for yours. For the tutorial, I'm going to be doing 12, just an average size carrot. So 12 double crochets into the magic ring, going over your tail. Just do 12 double crochets or whatever number of double crochets you would like. You can pause the video and I'll meet you when you have finished your double crochets, making sure you're still working over that tail. If you'd like to follow along with the written pattern, all of my patterns are available on my website, secretyarnery.com, and all of my patterns are written in plain English, just like I was sitting there right beside you. So now you can pull your tail to slightly reduce the size of your magic ring. You can pull your hook up to make a bigger loop and just get that out of the way for right now. And then just slide your stitches around, making sure you're not going to lose your tail. Make sure your tail is still sticking out of your work. We just want to go around and space out all of those double crochets. Doesn't have to be perfect, but we just want a larger space taken up by stitches. We don't want them all stuck together on one side. So there is the very top of our carrot. Now you can go ahead and grab your green yarn and just that knot in the center. So we folded it together and the knot there in the middle is right there. So we just want to put that on the other side of the magic ring like that. So the knot is what's going to hold your carrot top on to your carrot. It doesn't have to be perfect. We can still pull all these tails later, but we just want the knot underneath our magic ring. And now we can go ahead and close up our magic ring. And because we spaced out our stitches, there's no gap at the join. So now you can go ahead, pull it nice and snug, like that, and you can pull your tails through a little bit, go through and get them all happy. It doesn't matter, though, what it looks like on that side. No one's going to see it. You might find the loose ones, you might not. Just like that. Now we are ready to join our yarn, to join our round. So loop back on your hook, and we're going to be going into the top of the real double crochet, so not into the chain. If you are looking at your carrot, there is our chain. We're going to ignore it, and we're going to go straight into that very first stitch. So just into that first stitch. We're going to slip stitch to join and chain 1. Just like that. Now we're going to work around 1 double crochet into each stitch all the way around. So depending how many double crochets you did is how many single crochets you are doing for this round. So you can pause the video. You can also speed me up or slow me down. Just hit that gear icon on the video. Or just pause the video and get caught up. I will meet you when you have made one single crochet into each stitch all the way around your carrot. When you get back to where we joined, I'm going to make one single crochet into that stitch right at the join. So this is an increase, really. And now we're just going to keep working around. But before we get going, I want to sew in this tail. Shrink it down really good again. And grab a sharp tip needle. If you have, they are linked in the description box. Like that. And now, I guess I can take the hook out of the way. We don't need that. We just want to go around in an opposite direction. So wherever the yarn is coming from, we want to go back the other direction. So our magic ring stays nice and snug, because that's what's holding our carrot together. So I went forward a few times, and now I'm just going to go back a couple times. Just making sure you can't see any of my stitches on the pretty side. We're doing it all underneath. There, just like that. There. We can cut that off if you want, or you can just leave it as stuffing inside your carrot. I'll cut it off so it doesn't distract you. And now we are ready to do a row of increases. If you are doing a super skinny carrot, you're not going to do increases. You will just keep going from here, and it'll be the skinniest that your carrot can be. If you want an average size carrot that kind of goes a little bigger after the top, then follow me for this round, but it's up to you. Each carrot is different. Our next stitch, we're going to do right over here. So now we're skipping over that little join we did, little slip stitch, and we're going to make one single crochet. And one single crochet into the next 2 stitches. So 3 single crochets just to space us out. And into the next stitch, I'm going to do 2 single crochets. I'm going to increase. 2 single crochets into the same stitch. And now 1 single crochet into each stitch for 6 stitches, depending on what we want to do. Let me just explain it to you a bit. We did an increase here. We just want to do an increase on the other side. So what you could do, pop a stitch marker into the side of one of those stitches in the increase, and then just eyeball it on the other side where you want another increase to be. We just don't want our increases exactly side by side or too far apart. So just 2 sides of your carrot. You can eyeball it. You don't need to use stitch markers, but you can if you want to. And then when you get to the other side of your carrot, go ahead and pop in 2 single crochets into the same stitch. Just like that. And now we can move that stitch marker up into one of those strands along the side. We don't want to go into the loops at the top because we need those for crocheting. That's where our hook goes. We don't want to mess up with those, but along the side is fine. And now we are going to keep crocheting around and around, 1 single crochet into each stitch until the body of our carrot is the length you want it to be. So now depending on the shape of carrot that you want to make is how many rows you're going to do before we start decreasing. So for this carrot, I started decreasing after about 8 rows. For this carrot, probably about 12 rows. For this carrot, around 6 rows. So it depends on what shape you want your carrot to be. Each carrot is individual. So pause the video and do all your single crochets until the body of your carrot is the length you would like it to be. So when you're happy with how long the body of your carrot is so far, the straight bit at the top, we can go ahead and start a decrease. So to do a decrease, you start a single crochet into the next stitch, but you leave it on your hook. You just bring that yarn through and leave it on your hook, and you go into the next stitch and bring that yarn back, and now you have 3 loops on your hook. Wrap your yarn and take off all 3 loops. So we worked into 2 stitches, but we're left with 1 stitch at the top. So that is a decrease. You can go ahead and move your stitch marker up just into one of those side loops, right there. And now 1 single crochet into each stitch until you reach the other side of your carrot. If you want a bent carrot, you can do your decreases closer together. So instead of getting to the other side over here, you could do it closer, and that eventually will kind of make your carrot a bit wobbly, a bit not straight. Start a single crochet into this first stitch, but leave those loops on your hook, and then go into the next stitch right here and bring the yarn back. So you'll have those 3 loops on your hook. Turn your hook so that hook is facing down and take off all 3 loops. And now move your stitch marker up. If you are an experienced crocheter, you do not need to use a stitch marker. You can just eyeball it. It's just a carrot. And now 1 single crochet into each stitch for 2 rounds, or for however many rounds you want to do in between decreases. Let me show you the difference or your options of how they look. So for a short carrot, you can just do 1 round in between decreases. For a longer carrot, you could do 3 rows or 3 rounds in between decreases. For an average carrot, you can do 2 rows, or whichever combination you want. So whenever we decrease or do a decrease round, we make it skinnier. So you can decide the spacing of how you want yours. For this pattern today, I'm going to be doing 2 rounds in between these stitch markers. If you are winging it, just keep crocheting until you feel like doing decreases. So you can pause the video, keep working around 1 single crochet into each stitch for however many rounds you want to do before we decrease. So there is 2 rows above our last decrease, so I'm ready to decrease again. But we can stuff our carrot before we make it more difficult for ourselves. So just grab some of your hollow fiber, just little bits of it, little clouds, and poke them down into the base of your carrot. You don't want to stuff it so hard that it stretches out and the stuffing kind of pokes through, but close. Just want it to feel, you want it to hold its shape. Just stuff. And you don't want to fill it right up to the top because we don't want to be snagging that hollow fiber with our crochet hook when we're working into those stitches. So just poke it down inside, at least 1 row below so you don't snag it with your crochet hook. So now pop that loop back onto your hook. So into the next 2 stitches, we're going to do a decrease. So pop your hook into the first stitch and bring the yarn back. Pop your hook into the second stitch and bring the yarn back. Wrap your yarn, turn your hook facing down, and slide off all those 3 loops. There is our decrease. We can move that stitch marker up if you're using stitch markers. And now 1 single crochet into each stitch until you reach the opposite side, or wherever you are making your decreases. There we are. So into the next 2 stitches, I'm also going to do a decrease. So starting a single crochet, but leaving it on my hook, starting a second single crochet, 3 loops on my hook, and I push it up onto the fat part of your hook. So if you're having a hard time, it might be because those loops are tiny from being up by the hook. Make sure you're working on the fat part of your hook. Wrap your yarn, turn your hook, and take off all 3 loops. Move that stitch marker up if you're using stitch markers. And now keep crocheting until you're ready to do decreases again. For me, it's going to be 2 rounds. For you, it might be 1 round or 3 rounds, whatever you decide. So pause the video and I'll meet you when you are ready to do more decreasing. Now I've done my 2 rows on top of my stitch markers. You can go ahead, pull a loop up, and we're going to stuff it again. So we're just going to keep repeating this all the way along. Before we do our decreases, we top up our carrot and just make sure that our stuffing is down inside, not up where our crochet hook is. So we're going to do a decrease. So starting a single crochet into 2 stitches. Oops, I got my stuffing that time. There we go. And finishing them together, and then working around to the opposite side or wherever you want your decreases to be, and we'll do a decrease when we get there as well. So starting a single crochet and bringing it back, 2 loops on our hook, on the fat part of your hook, and into the second stitch, also up onto the fat part of your hook, wrapping and taking off all 3 loops, and 1 single crochet for 2 more rounds. You can also go ahead and pop up those stitch markers just into the side strand, any side strand of that increase, just so you can count how many rows you have done. There you go. So now pause the video and keep working along. I will meet you when you're ready to do some more decreases. So I've done my 2 rows. I'm going to just put a little more stuffing in there, always doing our stuffing before we do our decreases. And as it gets smaller, you might want to use a pen or a pencil or a chopstick to poke it inside there. So now into each of the next 2 stitches, we're going to start a single crochet. So we have 3 loops on the fat part of our hook, wrapping and taking off all 3 loops, and moving up our stitch marker. One single crochet into each stitch, getting to the opposite side. And then another decrease. So starting a single crochet into 2 stitches, wrapping your yarn and taking off all 3 loops. Moving up your stitch marker if you are using stitch markers. And 1 single crochet into each stitch for 2 rounds. So, or however many rounds you're doing in between your decreases. So pause the video and I'll meet you when you're ready to decrease again. After you've done your rounds of just regular single crochet, we are ready to do our last stuffing. Well, depending. If you did a different number of double crochets in the beginning, your opening might be larger than mine, and then go ahead and just keep repeating this until it's tiny, about the size of a pen to get inside there. So this is my last bit of stuffing. You might have a few more rounds to do for yours, but I'm just going to take my stuffing and try my best little bits of stuffing to get it down into that carrot, because this is the last time we can stuff. And now I'm going to stuff it a little bit more than I have in the past, a little bit of a hard bit of stuffing in there, because we're going to use that to massage it into the tip after we have closed up our carrot. There we go. And again, try to get that stuffing away from your stitches so we're not pulling it out with our crochet hook. And now we are ready to close our carrot. So I'm going to do a decrease into the next 2 stitches. So starting a single crochet into 2 stitches, wrapping my yarn and taking off all 3 loops. I'm not moving my stitch markers anymore because there's no space. And then just getting to the other side. And I'm going to do another decrease. So starting a single crochet into 2 stitches, like that. And I'm just going to go around a bit, the yarn out of the way. And now 1 single crochet into each stitch. You don't have to do 2 rounds, but we're going to do 1 more decrease before it's finished. So this is when you can customize it to make it however you like it. It's already pretty carrot-like. I'll make it a little bit skinnier just by doing more single crochet right here. Just 1 into each stitch until you are ready to do a decrease. So for me, I think that's pretty good. It's a shape I like. So now into the next 2 stitches, I'm going to start a double crochet into each, and it's a little tricky to get into it because it's such a small spot. But there's my decrease, and I'm just going to chain 1. Now you can cut your tail long enough. We're going to need that to sew this little bit closed here at the top. So snug that down. You can massage that, or you can take out your stitch markers, and then you can massage your stuffing so it gets down into that tip. That's why we did a little bit of extra stuffing that last time. And thread your needle. And I want to keep this knot, that chain 1, as the tip of my carrot. I don't want to sew it down. Well, you could if you wanted like a blunt tip carrot. I want a pointy carrot. So I'm just going to gently sew in my tails, just down along that slope. Leaving that chain 1 at the top. Oop. And I'm just going to go up and down to fill in that open side of our carrot. You can cut that last tail. And there is your crochet carrot. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial as much as I did. I'm waiting for you in that video up there, and stay hooked.